Let's carry over the social distancing to curb the CCP virus's spread to socialism distancing to curb communism's spread into body politic. I have a I'm I'm conflicted, confused, not understanding how people seem to be openly communist or socialist. And I've had a separate discussion with a scientific socialist, and I've talked about a video where I was saying the history of capitalism, and I have many conversations with people, as many videos and content that you've seen. If you've been here before, if you have, welcome back. If you haven't, welcome to my channel, welcome to my content. I talk about politics and other things that frustrate me and things like this. It's dying alive. It goes to the opposite of just whole like living dead, the zombie type of thing. But I feel it seems, feels, looks like people come out and like, yeah, I'm a trained Marxist. I'm okay with this. People look at the Chinese Communist Party. It's running one of the biggest countries in the world. And people seem to talk about them with just kid gloves. And we look at the things that come out of there, literal camps of people. Like this, the policies they have, literally going in and welding people into their homes. And just what is going on with these people? Like you come to their country and like, yeah, in order for you to have business here, about 50% of your board has to be Chinese Communist Party members. That's just how it is. You look at the Great Leap Forward, and I mentioned this, the Great Leap Forward under Mao Zedong. I was talking to a friend of mine. She's pretty worldly. She knows her stuff about things, but I asked her about the people that died. Did she know about it? It's like, no, she didn't know really the actual figures. So I get it. Maybe it's not covered that well, is why people can actually go out and say that. But then you just talk about the system itself, public ownership of the means of production, and like, what does that practically mean? Public own, like what, how are you going to get supply and demand? Why are you against private property yet you own things? I don't see you just giving things away. You still have ownership. Are you going to say you can't own your own body? Because that's where private ownership comes from. Owning your body and the actions of your body, and then the things you act upon, the things you create, the things you maintain. Those are things that become you. You can have things and you can pass the ownership to somebody else. And like you just talk about some of the great horrors of humanity. You see, like slavery, and just slavery itself. Let's not talk about slavery. Let's talk about something like the colonialism, or people talk about what happened in the United States of America. Like the Americans came in and they took the land from the natives, and that was horrible. Or the white people came to Africa and they took the land away from all the blacks that were there. That they owned this stuff. Or oh, these people own these old artifacts. So these people in the past took these artifacts. They have to take it back to this nation. So some of the people who say that, but if you have communism where it's like everything is owned by everyone, by the worker, then do those natives who are alive today, are they actually people that work that land? How did they have the ownership? How did their ancestors have ownership of that land enough to pass it on to the people? Or did the Americans that since the natives came, since the colonists came and established the United States of America, there's other people working the land, do they kind of count as the workers at that point? If the people didn't actually build those artifacts in the past, then who are the people today to say they still own it, so they have to be taken back from the different museums and things like that? If people in Africa are not actually using the land, then if an African politician comes in and says, okay, somehow I'm going to purchase this land and clear this is my government now, and then China wants to come in and say we're going to help build this railway in the middle of nowhere in our Belt and Road kind of initiative, and then you have to give us like 100,000 acres of the most fertile land in your country, and then you're going to ship that back to China. Is there ownership? Does that African politician have the ability to say this is the nation's land so we can make this deal with this Chinese people? Like what is the situation? But I personally have issues with communism, with socialism. I don't think equality, even if it was possible, is something that would be preferable to me. I like the fact that you are better at a lot of things than I am. I like the fact that I am better at a lot of things than you are. That's what makes life, that's part of what makes life worth living. I think I would still live even if everything literally was equal, if every day exactly was the same and everyone I met was exactly the same, all the food I ate was exactly the same, all the thoughts we had were exactly the same. I don't think I would kill myself at that time, but I prefer this diversity. I prefer this changes. I prefer that when I meet somebody, that's their own person with their own thoughts that they own their own physical body. They're physically there in that location because whoever owns that location has decided it's okay for us to be there, and then we both decided to be there with the time that we both own, and we're sharing and spreading and distributing this thing. We're staying together. But anyway, so we understand that aspect. At least I think we understand. At least I think I've made a case for that. But when you talk about right now with the CCP virus, we've seen what's happened with that thing. We see the spread. There's an actual virus out there. Whether you want to debate of how bad the virus is, how good it is, how well people have acted, I think in general, if somebody has something and you distance yourself away from that person, there's less chance of you getting that thing if it is contagious. That is just something we just understand. Whether it's chickenpox, whether it's the CCP virus, whatever it is in that case. So, things like socialism, things like communism, that is a brain virus. I think that is a virus to human civilization, to society, to the body politic. I think we should do a similar distancing to socialism in order to curb that virus. We need to quarantine the people who have this. Like I was supposed to say, like under a supposed anarcho-capitalist type of place where you can have an entire society where there's rules, there's leaders, but everyone under those rules and leaders is subject to that. The liberty and the freedom that's in there. Then you could have a commune that you can say, we're going to have a special class of people that everyone within this commune is actually just going to give all their money to. There's no ownership of things. Everyone's going to actually just spend their money and give their money to this thing, and then it will be distributed according to this special group of people that's actually deciding who deserves what and where their money should be gone. That can be done under that. But the inverse can't be happened. If you have a communist state like that, you can't have a location where people are like, no, I'll actually own myself. I'll decide if I'm going to actually spend on this. I'm going to decide who I'm going to deal with. Under communism, you can't really decide who you're going to social distance from and who you're actually going to be in close dealings with. They decide that for you. You don't have the ownership over the different locations that you can actually go to or can't go to. That social distancing will just be decided by some central body, by some central government that are normally even far less actually accountable to their laws than you'd see in a place like in the United States of America, where they're like, you can't go get a haircut, but I'm a politician, I'm going to be on TV, so I need a haircut. So that type of thing won't happen. They'll just be like, no, you can't go get a haircut. You won't even be able to allow to complain. It'd be a situation where the communists would be like, yeah, you can't get a haircut because you just can't right now because of this virus. We're going to weld you into your home. But oh yeah, I'm still going around. They'd probably be like, I didn't get a haircut. My hair just stopped growing. They'd just say something like absurd like that. But anyway, so just this thing, I think we should find some kind of way to quarantine these people. I don't know if they truly believe these things or they just don't really understand what they're meaning with these things, because you can actually move to locations that are socialists, that are communists, but I don't really see too many avowed communists and socialists in the United States of America making strong efforts to move to China. But I see a lot of people in the the Chinese Communist Party trying to get into the United States of America. Like this recently had a thing where the United States of America was like, okay, we're going to actually sanction some of the CCP officials and party members who are involved in, I think it's Jinwan province or something, where the Uyghur Muslims are, and they're involved in making the camps and things like that. And they're like, oh, we're going to say we're going to freeze your assets and things. And then the Chinese Communist Party was like, oh, no, we're going to do the same. The senators of the United States of America can't travel and invest in China. Who was doing that? How many senators were doing that? I imagine there are some senators and other officials who get some donations somehow that could be somehow connected to Chinese Communist Party, because as I mentioned, it's a lot of interest. People invest in a lot of things in the United States of America. Part of the money laundering, get to their money out of China, because the different things that can be done, like if they just fall on the wrong side of the wrong people in China, the money can be taken away. It's a cutthroat environment out there. It's not that comfortable for them. Their kids are in the United States of America studying. There's not too many. With this one, I really don't think there's any actual senators' kids. Oh yeah, Biden's son did go and work in China. So there are some situations like that, but it's not too many people who are like, I'm going to go study at Beijing University instead of studying at Harvard if they could. But the inverse is happening, where there's a lot of actual Chinese with few. I don't know, a lot would be more than, maybe, I think it's 10%, 15% of the top Chinese Communist Party officials have their actual kids studying in the United States of America, if available. So there is that kind of thing. But yeah, so anyway, the distancing, see them, I want them to mention, I want them to say what they are, and that's part of why I am supportive of someone like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, people like Bernie Sanders. I am more supportive of this environment where people are just more open with their belief systems. I'd rather people talk. I'd rather know that this person's a socialist, this person's a communist, so I can know to deal with them with that in knowledge and to avoid most of the things involved with what they're actually doing. Just come out and actually call a spade, and let's actually work with with that knowledge. So that's it for now. Like, share, subscribe. Let me know about this distancing thing. Have you become more political in your conversation, in your actual discussions? Do you think you possibly know somebody that truly understands what socialism and communism is and supports that? If you found out that somebody you knew was that way, would you think that would be worth kind of having a conversation with and you actually found they support that? Would you still be friends with them, or would that do something to your friendship? Are you actually a socialist and you think it's actually good and you've let go of people like me who are against, who don't think what you believe is preferable and think that would actually lead to less human flourishing? Let me know what you think in the comment section. Thank you for spending your time listening. Till next time, goodbye.